VR has come a very long way in the past couple of years. I remember when I first got into VR with the original Oculus Quest. It was bulky and uncomfortable, you had to deliberately ignore the horrible screen door effect, there was almost no processing power, and at the time, it was one of the coolest pieces of tech I had ever used, and I absolutely loved every second of it. Today, entry-level VR is substantially better for new users. VR is more accessible than ever with headsets like the Quest 3S. There's more to explore in VR than ever before. The visuals and content are the highest fidelity we've ever seen, and for better and for worse, VR has seen significantly more mass adoption. As far as VR has come, however, there's still a lot to improve on. Lack of software and hardware freedom, a lack of good content, and performance issues have been prevalent for as long as VR has been around. And while the VR industry has come a very long way, and we've seen a lot of improvements in these areas, these problems still plague VR today. Enter the Steam Frame. Let's get a quick rundown on what exactly the Steam Frame is. On the hardware side, the Steam Frame features high-quality wireless PC VR streaming through a 6 GHz Wi-Fi 6E adapter, as well as standalone use powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor and 16 GB of RAM, with 8 GB of VRAM. The headset has dual 2160 by 2160 LCD displays with a refresh rate of up to 144Hz behind custom pancake lenses. It features eye tracking, monochrome pass-through, an SD card slot, and an expansion port in the front. The controllers have a new layout that features a full set of ABXY and D-pad inputs, triggers and bumpers, and all the other VR inputs we've come to expect at this point. On the software side, the Steam Frame is streaming first, using eye tracking to do what Valve calls foveated streaming, where the highest quality wireless streaming data goes only where you're looking, and that data is sent to the dedicated Wi-Fi dongle to ensure a quality connection. In standalone mode, the headset runs the Arch Linux-based SteamOS, which through Valve's compatibility layers can run almost anything you throw at it, including flat-screen games and software. Now on paper, the headset's hardware is impressive, but nothing we haven't seen elsewhere. We already have headsets with eye tracking, wireless streaming, powerful standalone hardware, pancake lenses, and pass-through. The real magic of this headset is what it can be when it's all put together. This isn't like any VR headset we've seen on the market before. I don't think it's going to be a Quest killer, and it's definitely not trying to be an AR-focused headset like the Apple Vision Pro or the Galaxy XR. I think this headset will serve as the bridge between standalone VR like the Quest lineup and PC VR like the Big Screen Beyond, allowing for the freedom and content library of PC VR in a more streamlined and accessible package. Knowing what it is, how can the Steam Frame solve these problems? In regards to software and hardware freedom, the Steam Frame is without a doubt the most open standalone VR headset we've seen to date. The software and hardware are both open for you to tinker with, explore, break, build upon, or just enjoy as they are, and we really haven't seen much of that if at all in the VR market as it stands now. Headsets like the MetaQuest lineup do allow for some amount of modification, but it's locked behind developer settings, and it's generally discouraged for the average user, and the headset itself is locked behind the requirement for a Meta account. This is in stark contrast to Valve, who says directly on the Steam Frame page, install your own apps, open a browser, do what you want. It's your PC. Giving users true ownership over the hardware and software they purchase is how it always should be. And while Valve admittedly doesn't have a perfect track record with software ownership, this is a very welcome step in the right direction, and I have hope that Valve can force the hand of the VR industry to become more free and open as a whole to the consumers who buy these products. It's also refreshing to see a product like this in a world of remote shutoffs and closed ecosystems. Another big problem in the VR industry is a lack of reasons to pick up your headset. I'll admit that despite how passionate I am for VR and how closely I follow this technology, I have at times struggled to find reasons to pick up my headset since it's just more convenient to play flat-screen games on a PC and skip the setup for PC VR. And I'm not alone in feeling like this. Despite millions of VR headsets being sold and VR being in more hands than ever before, so many headsets sit on shelves collecting dust. The issue is due in part to a lack of VR experiences to play and come back to. And while there are popular social experiences that people log thousands of hours in, like Gorilla Tag, VR Chat, and Rec Room, for the average person who might not be interested in social experiences, there aren't a lot of things to keep you coming back and justify the process of setting up VR and getting into VR. Anyone who's used Quest Link to connect to Steam VR will understand what I mean. This is where the Steam Frame could be a game changer for VR as we know it, and it all comes down to the genius controller design and the compatibility layers Valve has implemented. The Steam Frame controllers truly feel like the natural cross between VR and traditional controller design, and from the moment I saw them, I couldn't help but thinking, why hasn't anyone thought of this before? Being able to play any game that supports a controller natively on standalone VR hardware significantly increases the use cases for this headset, since you could use it for all your flat screen and VR favorites. You can even use this headset in the place of a traditional computer or console. It's also great for introducing VR to new users with a button layout they're already familiar with. While I want games to be immersive and not just have people press a button to do things, there are instances where just pressing a button on your controller makes the most sense. And previously, for very complex games, developers were left to find awkward and clunky solutions. But these controllers will allow for actions to be simple and intuitive for people who haven't ever used VR before, or even for veteran users who still haven't memorized which letters correspond to what. Even if the Steam Frame isn't an entry-level VR headset, I think if developers use the new inputs well enough, we could start to see this controller layout become the standard for VR controllers going forward, and I'm personally all for it. The other big benefit of the Steam Frame is that it's more convenient than anything we've seen before. Playing all your games doesn't have to rely on multiple software layers trying not to fight with each other, and the process of starting something up is as simple and intuitive as just hitting the play button. Even when you connect it to a PC, everything is completely streamlined, and thanks to the dongle and foveated streaming, everything is high quality out of the box. The Steam Frame could finally be the solution to the usage problem, since the software and hardware aren't a challenge for the user, and the inclusion of flat screen content means there's more to do in-headset than ever before. In regards to the performance issues, the inclusion of eye tracking could be a game changer for optimization, with things like foveated rendering, an optimization technique that works similarly to Valve's foveated streaming but on a rendering level. We've seen eye tracking before in headsets like the PSVR 2, but the technology hasn't become anywhere close to commonly adopted, since few headsets actually feature it. As a result, few developers have really been able to take full advantage of the tech. I think the Steam Frame, with the support of VR developers, could show the industry what effect eye tracking can have on optimization, and in particular, what effect that can have on standalone VR. I could see Meta implementing the tech into the Quest 4 if it's shown to work well in the Steam Frame, which would vastly increase the percentage of VR users with access to the tech and its benefits. I'm optimistic that developers will implement some amount of eye tracking related optimizations for games that would benefit from it. The Steam Frame is an incredibly impressive and interesting piece of technology, and I'm excited to see what players, developers, modders, and Valve themselves end up doing with it, and how it can shape VR as a whole and help solve these major issues. The Steam Frame provides some much needed hope for the future of VR as a whole, and I hope to see more headsets like it moving forward. If the Steam Frame tells us anything, it's that VR is far from dead. It's just getting started. Hello there, I'm Ferriton, and thank you for watching this video. I made this channel several years ago, but never actually got around to uploading something, and since the Steam Frame was announced, I couldn't stop researching it and talking about it, and at some point I just thought, well, I should make a video essay on it, since I can't really do anything else other than just wait for it to release. If you did end up liking this video, then please consider sticking around, as I've got plans to make some more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.